Hey, welcome to One More Rep with Coach Walker. I am your host, Coach Walker. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode 1 of hopefully many to come. As if you don't know already, I am a certified strength and conditioning specialist through the NSCA, a certified performance enhancement specialist through the NASM. Been certified for over a decade. This space is where we come to talk about all things strength and conditioning, fitness and wellness, health and wellness, a little bit of nutrition thrown in, and anything under the sun that relates to the body and your wellness. And as long as it fits into my scope of practice, or if I have an opinion on it, we're going to talk about it. And that's what we're doing today. We're talking about the court case that is the lawsuit that's going through the courts right now from the former Oregon Ducks offensive lineman Doug Brenner. He is suing the NCAA, University of Oregon, its former football head coach, and also one of the former strength and conditioning coaches. He's suing for over $100 million because he himself specifically developed rhabdo, which we'll get into, which is a pretty bad situation from a workout that took place in 2017. So if you haven't been following this case, back in 2017, I guess the season before, or maybe a couple of seasons going into 2017, the University of Oregon, they hadn't been winning as much as they had been used to in the past. So coaching changes, obviously, in this situation. You bring in new head coaches. They bring in, typically a lot of coaches, they bring in the guys that they like, the guys that they work with over the years, and this is what happened in this case. The head coach was named Willie Taggart. He brought in one of his guys that he worked with at his previous stop, strength coach, well, I'll use the term strength coach loosely, Oder Rende is his last name. So they came in, worked out, and so the players, I think they were coming off a winter break. And obviously winter break, no matter, depending on your level, college, high school, JUCO, all those different things, you're not working out extremely hard, especially if you didn't make the playoffs or anything like that. You're gonna work out because it's what you do, but you're not gonna be going all out like you would be if you're under somebody's watchful eye in the strength and conditioning and in the weight room. So they get in, work out. So I guess from all accounts, going back to the stories back then in 2017 and coming to now, the workouts were at a level that were not scaled to what the player should have been doing at that point in time. I don't know exactly what the exact workout looked like. I've never seen any write-up of the actual program, but from all accounts, if you're developing rhabdo, the workout is basically is completely above the level of the athlete. And in this case, I think it was 3 athletes that developed rhabdo. But for this case, the one athlete, the one offensive lineman, Doug Brenner, is the one who brought the court case. So when you develop rhabdo, or the full name rhabdomyolysis, I'll give you the full definition of it is: the condition is one in which the skeletal muscle tissue is rapidly broken down, and products of that process are released into the bloodstream, causing permanent damage. It can cause permanent damage to the kidneys, and in some cases, it can decrease your life expectancy. So basically, it causes muscle tissue to break down and release proteins and byproducts off into the bloodstream. Not a good situation. If you remember from years ago, I think it would have been, I don't know how old everybody is out there, but probably late 90s, early 2000s, Albert Haynesworth, when he was going, I think he was going from the Tennessee Titans to the Washington Redskins, he came in out of shape, trying to get back in shape, and basically pushed himself, and he supposedly developed rhabdo. I don't think they ever confirmed it, but that's what he was saying at the point in time. But basically, it's a messed up situation to where the effects can be lingering. So let's jump into this case. So basically, what they're saying, what this guy Doug Brenner is purporting, is that there are a lot of missteps along the way, that the NCAA, that the rules were not followed by the coaches, to where there was, like, I think it's a book, a rule book with maybe 140 pages in it or something like that, to where there are a lot of bylaws that were not followed. That they were not provided water, they were not provided adequate breaks. They were doing things to where, like high school level stuff, like old school high school level stuff, where if one player didn't do 10 perfect push-ups, everybody had to do them over, or they had to do up, downs, or burpees, whatever you want to call them, and it was just like a lot of punishment type of things like that. And if you know anything about strength and conditioning, you scale things based upon the position. If you're doing gassers or sprints or whatever, if you have time limits, you set it based upon the position. So your speed guys, your skill guys, your running backs, your wide receivers, and your DBs positions like that, they're gonna have to, like, if they have a 100-yard dash, is going to be a shorter time frame than, say, your offensive lineman, defensive lineman. They're going to have more time to complete it, and you scale things like that. That's the old school way of doing it. Obviously, not everybody's doing it that way, but things like that, it seems like that's what he's purporting. Things that were going on was like it wasn't as progressed as it needed to be to what was going on between 2017 and beyond. So he developed rhabdo. So he has this case. And he's saying that his lawyers are saying that this rhabdo that he developed could potentially have taken 10 years off his life expectancy. I don't know. I didn't look this guy up to see what his NFL potential was like, if he made it to the NFL or anything like that. But going off the case here, let's kind of jump into this piece here, where when you look at these situations, you look at the coach that they had in place, and you look at his credentials. He had a couple of different certifications, but none of them were from the NSCA, NSCA for the Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, because to be in a weight room, you should have to have that, but that's not, I think, let me think here. Going back to maybe mid-2010s, 2010s, the NSCA didn't have that as a requirement. I think it's more of a requirement now, but I've also encountered a lot of people. I know when I was interning back in 2011, the guy I interned up under, he didn't have his CSCS. He was just he had a master's degree in exercise science, but even with the things that he was doing, I was certified at the time and he wasn't. I was just seeing kind of holes and gaps in what he was doing. Great guy. He's gone on to do some great things since that point, but you can kind of see the gaps that are in programming when you don't have someone who's certified like that. But this guy, Oderende, the certification he has his USAW, has his National Association of Speed and Explosion certification, and he has his strength and conditioning certified by the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country. Now, when this case first broke, when it first came out, that last one, the strength and conditioning coach certified by the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country, was the main one that they talked about, which the people that I talk to, the strength and conditioning coaches that I know of, they're not checking for that. If they're not checking for that as a credential that they need or they want to be in a D1 strength and conditioning weight room, to be the strength and conditioning coach on the page. When I go to your page, that's not the credential that I'm looking for. I'm looking for CSCS. I might look for the USAW as a secondary, but that CSCS is what I'm always looking for. So whether you're a D1, D2, you're private sector, you're professional level, working with athletes, wherever you're at, that's what somebody who is worth their salt they're looking for. They might look for the PES because that's been big lately, not bigger than CSCS, but it's been one that people are looking to accept, because if you've ever seen the study materials for either one, the PES has a lot of similarities to the CSCS. The CSCS has just been around a lot longer, and it has been battle tested, and you have the CEUs that you have to maintain, keep you abreast of what's going on in the industry. So with the workouts, you look at it, and if it's not scaled, you end up with situations like this. You have 3 guys that develop rhabdo, and now in the case itself, I think it has good merits. It's just a matter of which points they kind of focus on, because he didn't say, okay, you broke this specific bylaw or rule, which kind of gives him a space, gives the NCAA a leg to stand on, because if you can't say, okay, we violated this specific rule, then okay, well, then what are you suing us for? But specifically, we're suing us because I developed rhabdo, and the pieces that he said is that the program wasn't vetted by the sports medicine team, which, as a strength and conditioning coach, I would feel a way about having to have my program vetted by somebody who doesn't have the same skill set as me, because love ATCs, love everybody that works in that department of sports medicine team, but unless they're a certified strength and conditioning specialist, they're not going to see the program the same way. They're looking for the injury side of things. So if a player gets injured, that's who I go see after. Or if the player is injured, I definitely will collaborate with them on the program. But as far as me developing what's going to go into the program in the weight room, typically I'm going to talk to the coaches and kind of see what we're looking for, what our focuses are for the team, where we feel like we need to get stronger, where we would get faster, whatever that looks like. I'm going to develop the plan based upon that information and based upon my knowledge and knowing what I know about the needs of the sport that I may be developing the program for, whether that's football, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, cross country. I'm going to develop that program, whether it be alongside whatever teammates I have, whether other head coach, assistant coach, assistant strength and conditioning coach, whatever it looks like, we're going to develop that program together, unless it's just my assigned team. But you always get a second set of eyes on your program. I know when I was a strength and conditioning coach for the U.S. Army, I got second eyes on my programs all the time, just because I knew that would benefit the soldiers that I was working with. So I don't think his argument about the program not having to be vetted by the sports medicine team will stand up, but you never know. The other piece is he's arguing that the NCAA didn't or doesn't have mandates across the board for universities and their strength and conditioning staff and their sports medicine staff to follow. The NCAA is arguing that basically it's not in their purview to have something like that, because you have these medical professionals or these healthcare professionals in these roles, and you're saying, and basically we trust them more than us putting these bylaws into place. Now, I don't know exactly where I fall on that topic, just because one of the things about that is, I get their position, but I also get his too, because there should be some overarching guidelines that should govern what happens, and you can't have what you can do that branches off of that, as long as it is within your scope of practice, your team scope of practice. I think that can go either way, just because you are the NCAA. You do set some of the rules. You are the governing body. So therefore, something should fall back on your plate when it comes to this. The other piece is hiring coaches who are not certified. There are tons of certified strength and conditioning specialists out there in the world working as personal trainers, working in the private sector, working at D3s and D2s, and they should be at D1s. And you don't value the certification enough, or you don't know enough about the certification to mandate that everybody has to have this certification if they plan on managing or working in our strength and conditioning, in our weight room. I keep saying strength and conditioning, but if you plan on working in our weight room, working with our student athletes, you need to be certified. Period, point blank. There should be no gray area about that, because there are far too many coaches out there that can do the job and do it well at a high level. I know coaches personally that are at D2s and D3s, and they're doing great work, and there's nothing wrong with a D2 or D3, because a job is a job, and those are athletes, and you're going to get them to the highest level, but they're being blackballed from going to D1s, and they have the credentials. But you have people who don't have the credentials because they know someone, they're at the D1. I've trained athletes in the private sector that are at universities, and they'll come back and they'll show me the programs that these coaches wrote, that their coach wrote, and it's like, what is this? Like, I had a volleyball player. She was going to school in Illinois, and their coach, I guess the original strength and conditioning coach, left. Other guy got promoted. He had his main program for these volleyball players was running a mile every day and doing basically endurance exercises, no power, no stability, nothing to prevent ACL injuries. And she was a great athlete, in great shape, and we would just talk, and I gave her some stuff that she could do on her own. And then she came back at the end of the season and said, yeah, we had like maybe it was like something like at least 3 ACLs, which you can't necessarily know when it's going to happen, but if you don't train to prevent it, then yeah, you're going to have some ACLs. So yeah, it's a lot of that. I encountered that with a number of athletes, probably 28 in 2017 and 2018. I know for sure I encountered a number of athletes that were at programs with strength and conditioning coaches, and the programs was just crap. So making sure your coaches are certified, that they are maintaining their CEUs, goes a long way in keeping your athletes healthy, keeping things like this case out of the courts. Because now if you do your due diligence and you operate first with the mindset of do no harm, you're going to avoid this. But now we have this court case that's $100+ million on the table. I don't know if he'll win the settlement completely. I don't know how many layers it is to it, but I do know that this is a case that should have the strength and conditioning community looking hard at it. It should have football coaches, everybody looking at what they do, because I know of situations where coaches, they just don't respect the strength and conditioning coach because they feel like they can do the job better. They don't truly understand what goes into being a strength and conditioning coach. If you really know if you are really good at what you do, you affect every aspect of the athlete, specifically on the field, from a mental standpoint, from a performance standpoint, because first and foremost, our job is bigger, stronger, faster, but it's more so injury prevention, making sure that everybody is durable and can be on the field, not seeing how many burpees I can make you do if somebody else doesn't do it the right way. So there is a skill and a talent that goes into the artwork that is strength and conditioning. So if you think different, you don't know the right strength and conditioning coaches. So you need to make sure that people are certified, give people the right looks, and not think that, okay, I can hire this guy because I like this guy. We saw it's a character piece, it's a knowledge piece, and it's basically somebody that's well-rounded and can do the job. And the other piece that goes into this is that the NCAA, the colleges, you don't have the right people who are hiring for these jobs or setting the price points. Because there was a job probably two months ago, maybe 3 months ago now at this point, that was I don't remember the school, it was in the state of Connecticut, I know that for sure. It was for a part-time position. No, part-time. It might have been part-time or full-time, obviously one of those two. But it was paying $10,000 a year. There have been other jobs that I've seen that you are assigned to the football team and other teams. Like you're assistant to the football team, and you have other teams assigned to you, like maybe 4 or 5 teams assigned to you, and they want to pay you $25,000 a year. But they want you to have 5 years of experience and a master's degree. What other industry does that allow in? The biggest thing that you have to do is place value on a strength and conditioning coach, place value on a certification, and you won't end up in situations like this. You won't have players that are coming back off a break, and it's the first day, okay, the first weekend we're going to break everybody. That's an old school mentality that doesn't work. It's so much science that goes into this, whether you have the budget for all the bells and whistles, all the newest technology, the knowledge that's available that goes along with the science makes it so these situations shouldn't happen. So if this is my child, yeah, let's sue. Because if he had NFL potential or not, it was shot down because of rhabdo. Like if he has these lingering effects, Yeah, pay that man. But you have to be cognizant and be realistic about what you're doing. Make sure you're doing right by the players. Do no harm first. Make the workouts make sense. Don't do something just for the sake of doing it, because anybody can have do set. Anybody can make you sweat. Anybody can make you hurt. But you take somebody with the right amount of skill and the right amount of knowledge to make sure that they do it safely. That's the first rule of anything. And injuries happen on the field. They happen in the weight room. The biggest thing is don't let the injuries happen because you're doing something dumb. This is Coach Walker. This has been the first episode of One More Rep. Hopefully you like it. Leave some feedback in the comment section. Let me know what you want to hear me talk about, and just keep on lifting, keep on getting stronger, maximize, improve, excel, train like you mean it.